Well, I've been out of the office for 72 hours and she's already been arrested.
I knew you were the only one keeping City Hall together.
It's true. The amount of times that it was my intervention that kept her from being incarcerated, you guys would not believe.
I would imagine that all of the police department in Sacramento has a warm spot in their heart carved out just for you.
Big fans.
They're like, oh, well, we can't let Skylar down.
No.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine.
So for folks who don't know, Skylar Aval, no longer an employee at City Hall. He has moved on and started his own business. So congratulations there.
Yes, that business is called Amplify Sacramento. We're here for all of your campaign video needs. Holler at your boy.
Hell yeah. And the second part of this context is the second Skylar leaves City Hall, our council member, Katie Valenzuela, gets arrested. Dragged off to the clink. What did she do? Okay, can we guess? Can I guess what she did? What?
I don't think she made it all the way to the clink.
Oh, okay.
No Paddy Wagon Express.
No, I don't think so.
So what'd you do? My guess.
No, yeah, it was an SEIU 1000 action in solidarity with the state workers who have been trying to get the state to come to the table for compensation that makes sense, a raise that makes sense. So far, not getting a whole lot of buy-in. So yeah, Katie Valenzuela, Katie Maple, and Lorena Gonzalez were among three kind of notable figures of 8 who were arrested and cited for blocking the entrance to, I think, a satellite state building this afternoon.
Good for them.
And she was arrested by the sheriff's department, right? Or CHP?
It's CHP because it's a state building.
Yeah.
Ah.
And I mean, like, I know that all of their uniforms are probably like 99% polyester and they don't get a change during a 108-degree day, but I have to imagine that makes their sandy buttholes even more agitated.
Sweaty boys.
Yeah, but they get those cool hats with the big brims, that really keep them cool down below.
That's
what I mean.
Very important.
I had a CHP officer almost shoot my dog once at the Kaplan.
I remember that. I remember.
Jesus Christ. I mean, isn't that like in their training handbook? It's like how to kill dogs.
It was the fact that he was just so like maladroit and not able to grab his gun correctly is, I think, the only reason Olive is still alive today.
I'm going to applaud you for your use of that term, maladroit.
It took me a minute to catch the word, but I pulled it out of the air. Well, full solidarity with Katie, and Lorena. Lorena, of course, former assembly member who now runs the basically organization for labor here in California. And Katie being our 2 city council members from districts 4 and 5. Good on ya. Solidarity with the local 1000 folks. This is a good thing. I'm glad people are standing up for workers. The local 1000 folks have been fighting for a deal for months and months and fucking months. And like what the state has been offering them as far as raises go, it's galling. It does not coincide at all with the massive rising cost of living, and it's really fucked up. So people need to get out in the streets and make themselves seen and heard.
Yeah, I really hope that this has a resolution that works out. It doesn't, people who work full time for the state should not be like living in their cars and having to choose between eating and filling their gas tank up. And that is sadly the case for thousands, I think, of California state workers right now. So do better, I guess.
Yeah, Gavin and Cal HR and whoever else.
Well,
that's what we got. That's our intro. That was a good intro, I think.
I had one queued up, or more to the point, Shannon had one queued up for today that I was sort of looking forward to and dreading at the same time. But she unfortunately is under the weather, so we're gonna have to wait for next week for that one.
Okay, I'm
Aw,
pumped for that.
titillated.
Yeah, get juiced.
And I think we nailed it. The fellas got it today. All right.
Oh, I mean, I do have just a real quick update from last week's episode in that I was totally 100% vindicated with my clap understanding
I would
of
say
gonorrhea.
that you were not completely vindicated. You were like kind of vindicated. I'll give you kind of vindicated.
I think that the what was the wording that was used in an article describing how it potentially was connected was so much worse. I just was referencing people getting their dicks slapped with their hands.
No.
And this thing says boards. And I'm like, that's got to permanently put you out of use. Like you can't use a dick after it's been slapped by boards.
I mean, I would think there's got to be at least some kind of time period in between getting clapped by boards and being able to,
So
use
Yeah,
the thing,
the board penis refractory period.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't copulate with a platypus's beak down there.
No, that's not how human beings are designed. It doesn't.
No.
It's not in line with human biology, unfortunately.
And we here at Voices support science, so
Yes,
we know.
wholeheartedly. So, real quick, before we even go any further, also from last week, you guys got on this podcast and said that AMC no longer exists and that Century is the only movie theater that exists now. I was
not accurate?
going like, God damn it! Of all the ones for me not to be on, like this is just they're just saying lies. These are the worst takes about movie theaters I've ever heard. Made me very angry.
I was quite open with the fact that I had no idea what was going on as far as theater names went.
Is there an AMC in Sacramento?
Not in Sacramento, but AMC
Okay.
is alive and well in several other cities that are not Sacramento. In fact, I wish they were here because they have so if you do the movie deals, like I do the Cinemark one, you pay like a little bit of money per month, but then you get like a free ticket and like cheap concessions and no online fees and all that stuff, which is cool. Like you save a little bit of money, but at the AMC one, you pay them $20 a month. You can just go to the movies whenever you want for free. I would kill for that.
That's the theater of the working class right there. God damn.
Mhm.
They're like the
This
Little
week's
Caesars
episode.
of the theater.
This week's episode brought to you by AMC. America, movies, communism.
I mean,
AMC.
honestly, I'll do commercials for AMC if we get a theater in Sacramento. Let's go. I'm here for it.
I was going to ask what AMC stood for. I'm so glad that you provided the definition for that acronym.
Happy to help. All right. Well, why don't we start the show?
Let's do it.
All right.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Oh, hi, everyone. You have Kempa.
And you have Skylar.
You have Gabe?
Can we just take a moment and reflect on how good it feels to have Skylar back? Skylar, how does it feel for you to be back?
Wonderful. So good. The only thing that would make it better is if Shannon were here to enjoy it with us. She'll have to get in on the next one. Yeah, no, feels good. I have the times that in the last couple of years that I have come on the show, it's been really kind of at odds with kind of the other things that I've been doing. And it's nice to have that cleared out a little bit so that I can be on here with y'all.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you back. No longer relegated to state and national topics only.
Your binds have been broken.
Donald Trump's hog.
Yeah, we still made some waves in the few episodes you were on. Still got to work on that too. Yeah. So just to begin, folks, we love what we do. If you love what we do, try going down to patreon.com/voicesrivercity for as little as $5 a month. You can become a patron and help support us for all the work we're doing. We've got some special content coming up soon. Keep an eye out on that. And just, this is the beginning of an election cycle. I think things are going to heat up really fast on this show. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just really pumped for another season. How about y'all?
Are you asking me or are you asking the listeners?
Yeah, you too. I didn't want to make it rhetorical.
Like the standing ovations in the theater, the listeners can respond. We will get it. I'm excited. I think that this is it's going to be fun. I am pumped as a jam can be.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Well, let's get it rolling. Why don't we start local? Let's start with the city level. Let's start with these new little committees that apparently City Council has that seem to really confuse things the last year or two. One of the most important committees being the Law and Legislation Committee in City Council, comprised of 4 council members, and they sort of determine if certain proposed topics are worthwhile to bring toward the rest of council. And this week they covered a number of pretty interesting and pretty important topics. Who wants to kind of tell us what, I guess there were 3 biggies, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, so they had, they've been doing for the last couple of months, or I think last month, they did a series of community engagement things that the Police Oversight Committee did with SAC PD to get community input around military equipment use and kind of create a situation where the public can kind of ask questions directly to PD. The commission is there to kind of to facilitate. I went to a couple of them. I don't know. It's tough to speak on because it's, kind of what happened at the meeting was again, the police just kind of gave a presentation and then kind of were asked to do a bunch of stuff and kind of like, well, yeah, okay, well, whatever, we'll get to it when we get to it, kind of stuff, like the usual.
And they never seem to get to it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's been like kind of a major complaint from the Police Oversight Committee or Commission. Basically since they were convened, so I mean, shout out to Keon and the folks who are really trying to make that happen. It must be incredibly frustrating. Yeah, I don't know. There's still a lot of people, who just kind of who are still at the stage of like, well, why would police need, like, the police aren't a military, why do they need the military gear, which I think is a perfectly fucking valid and reasonable question for people to be asking.
Was that the thesis of, like, I was a little confused looking at that item. Like, what was the item?
Like, basically, so they're coming back to like make their reports. So they're going to come back and kind of make their recommendations to council about, here's kind of how much we had last year. Here's what we have this year. Here's what we need to, here's how much it costs, like blah, 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 kind of all of this stuff. And so,
and it's like an inventory.
That's part of it.
Oh,
and then there's also public, because of, I can't remember which bill it was off the top of my head. I should have looked this up before the show, but there is now in place, there is a public process where they have to go through, this process where they get community input and they have to go through council before they buy anything that's designated as military gear. And so this is part of that process.
Okay.
I don't know. It's good that the process exists, but it would be better if it felt like there was kind of more buy-in from all sides of the thing.
Or some sort of teeth or oversight. It seems like the cops sort of act of their own volition and their own accord, and there's no real, from what I've seen, particularly with the Oversight Commission, it's just like they don't give people the information they want. They're incredibly opaque. They don't, when they do give things on like, here's what our budget looks like, here's what our inventory looks like, the granularity is comical. It's like, you don't have any detail on what it is they actually have and what it is they actually spend money on. And year in and year out, we kind of continue to deal with that.
Yeah, I definitely think that, the particular point that you're making about whatever they do actually report that they have, oftentimes, more often than not, isn't accurate to begin with. And they have to come back and make corrective statements, months or potentially years later. So like this idea that like further bureaucratizing this process by creating, another layer that kind of insulates the police, while presenting the facade that they are becoming more accountable is like, it works really well for them, and it doesn't work well for the community at all. Like giving this, kind of going through the rigmarole of having like public input, having again, a facade of being able to take into account how the public might feel about their use of military equipment, their acquiring military equipment. It just seems very performative. And we know the history of Sac PD. We know their track record, and it's not like they're, that they've built this secure foundation of trust with the community anyways. So,
I mean, we're talking what, a day or 2 days after another person here in Sacramento was shot and killed by Sac PD.
Right.
Yeah.
Yesterday over by City College, someone who was apparently brandishing like a knife or a machete or something, got off of light rail and in their effort to calm the situation down, ended up shooting and murdering someone.
Yeah, I didn't really get the details on this. Do we know if this was a person who, I have to imagine that in some way it was, but do we know if this was a person who was like experiencing some kind of a mental health crisis, or was like mental health like kind of a big piece of this incident? Do we know?
I mean, from what I read, and it's the statements that were put out didn't have a tremendous amount of detail, but it definitely was kind of insinuating that the person was not mentally well or not mentally stable. So yeah, I would probably conclude that that's essentially what the current narrative is.
Yeah, I think like no matter what, if you're brandishing a knife at police officers who, I think there's probably some kind of a thing going on there where you're not all, you're not completely all there. And yeah, I don't know, just kind of another just the latest example of something where preventative measures could really have made a big difference. And this outcome could have been a lot different if we had people to show up to these things who were mental health professionals rather than badges and guns. Because we see kind of time and time again that, if you're a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Everything's a nail. Yeah. They talk about de-escalation, but shooting somebody's not de-escalating, right? And
no, it is not.
Thankfully, we will be getting video footage within 30 days of this, thanks to Sac PD's more, recent protocol and things like this. But they edit heavily. They do the little commentaries. Do you ever watch the videos they put out when they do this? When they're like, "Here's what happened." It's very much like, "Here's why our guys are in the right," and it's a little ugly. But yeah, and again, that's to all of our points on like the trust isn't there. So they come to Law and Leg, and it's, what was decided at the end of their item in Law and Leg.
I think it was just informational. I'm 99% sure there wasn't like anything decided necessarily.
Okay.
But it is like, the whole thing is just kind of a way, because it's the public is supposed to be informed, and then they ideally, let their representatives know how they feel about it. And then ideally your representatives then vote in a way that reflects the will of the constituents that they represent. but that not every council member was at the meeting that happened in their district, and that was pointed out at a meeting that I was at in Del Paso Heights.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. So because people were kind of doing the thing where they were like, what are we even doing here? Like, what's the point? And then it's like, well, you're supposed to talk to your council representatives. And they're like, well, where's our council representatives? And like everybody in the room was like, yeah. Yep.
Touche. Yeah, I mean, that is a problem with these weird committees. And I guess I don't understand the history and logic for why they were created. But, the Law and Leg Committee is comprised of 4 council members. Chair is Councilmember Valenzuela, the real one on City Council. But then she has 3 others on there, and in order for things to go to City Council, they have to be voted through on there. And the others up on the dais are moderates at best. There's Councilmember Rick Jennings, who was not there on Tuesday. There's Councilmember Eric Guerra, who sort of fancies himself as like a quiet liberal, I would say, but he takes a lot of real estate and landlord money and cop money. And then, of course, District 1, Lisa Kaplan, who is about as far right as you get if your name's not Sean Baby Laloy on council. And I just think a lot of things get they just purposefully, Lisa especially gums up the works with a lot of items that come up there, at least the good ones, and then she will stand up there and sort of cheerlead the cops when something like this comes up that is problematic and like we need to learn more. Should we move on to the Tahoe presentation?
Yeah.
So item 2 at the Law and Leg Committee, which again, this I suppose, does it need 50-50? Is it majority? How does that work? Do we know?
I think if they need 3 to have it pass. I can't remember if it's 2 or 3. This is something that I should know. Either way, they need at least 2 and maybe 3 to get it through to full council. But there is a process by which if it gets thrown out, the person who presented it can then appeal the decision at full council or an up or down vote, and then it would come back to Law and Leg and for another vote and come through. It's just like it sucks. It's a big it's so bureaucratic.
Ridiculous.
It's impossibly bureaucratic. It also puts the mayor in a position where he's closer to strong mayor this way because he can just put things on the agenda.
Right. So he could just put this on the agenda
now in a way that he didn't exactly before. But yeah, the whole process by which this goes. I don't know if you guys watched that council meeting where they were talking about this, but it was like, it was brutal, man. Like,
it's so fucking weird. So this week, we were presented with the tenant anti-harassment ordinance, which is a simple ordinance presented that would make it so, I don't know, it appears a tenant could not be harassed by their landlord. Now, to me, this seems pretty open and shut. Like, that's bad, right? Like, why wouldn't we codify that?
I mean, sounds like an infringement of freedom.
3 people who were on the dais, 2 of them have taken collectively, what is it? It's like a $24,000 from the apartment people and another $24,000 from the, I don't know. I'm talking, from real estate interests. I'm making those numbers up. I don't know if those are accurate or not, but I mean, it is I don't know. It's weird to me. It is wild that elected officials who take money from real estate interests are not made to recuse themselves from these conversations because it's such a clear conflict. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything or trying to come in with that kind of a hot take, but just on its face, it's crazy to me that this is permitted to happen in the way that it happens, because it's so, I don't know, to me, and who knows, I don't know. I'm just a dumb idiot and I don't know shit, but it seems like when I'm watching this shit, I'm like this is so, it seems so open and shut, right? Like you take a bunch of money and then you do the thing they want. I mean, okay, I'll stop talking about it. There's not a I'm gonna get voices into some trouble here, but I don't know. It's bananas to me that's how it works, that's how we allow these things to go.
It seems bad. Go ahead, Gabe.
No, I was just going to say, like, how do they, because obviously I think a lot of people feel that way, Skylar. Like it is very apparent that if you're taking money from particular interests and then you have, something in which you are a deciding voice on how you could financially impact those interests negatively or positively. But I wonder how they justify it, like that it doesn't impact their decision-making capabilities. Like, do they like pretend that like there are ways for them to remain objective in this? Like,
typically the way that I have seen them do it at meetings is that if they want to vote something down or they want something to go away, but they don't necessarily want to say that they want to, then what they do is they're like, well, I just need more information about
this.
The
so Lisa Kaplan move.
We need to do some more research, because I'm not ready to make any kind of decision about this until we have more research. And I mean, Guerra and Kaplan both did that at Law and Legislation, so, and that's basically, I mean, I don't know, as far as I can tell. And again, this is all just kind of based on my observations from watching city council meetings, but it seems pretty ubiquitous that if it gets to a vote where something that, especially if it's something that's popular with the public and they want to vote it down, the way to do it is to just be like, well, let's send it out for some more research. And then it's guaranteed to die on the vine, and they can kind of get out of it without saying, I don't want this thing to go,
Yeah. You fuck it in a very slow and shitty way. You gum up the works.
You bureaucracy it to death, which is like the easiest thing in the world to do. Because the system is set up to do that, right? And
well, especially this fucking committee system that Daryl et al. Have put together, it's perfect for that. So while you were talking, I looked it up very quickly. Lisa, you were correct. Took $6,000 from the California Apartment Association, so from the landlords. And then she also took $6,000 from CREPAC, which is the real estate, corporate real estate lobby.
CREPAC.
When she ran, you just love to see a neolib be supported by the creeps. And then Eric, of course, I actually had a friend messaging me just being like, because Eric is kind of a funny one. He runs under the radar. He's like a little quiet boy. But like
physically also runs under the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at like a couple of his like recent elections, and when he ran for assembly and failed, he took $8,100 from the landlords in that campaign and $9,700 from CREPAC, which of course you can just roll back over to your city council committee once you come back to that. So, and then like in his current campaign against Amrit, by the way, who would actually pass something like Tahoe, Amrit Sandhu, Kandu Sandhu, District 6 here in Sacramento. Look her up because she's definitely much better than this guy. In his race against her so far, he's taken $2,500 from the Committee for Homeownership, sponsored by the North State Building Industry Association, consistently anti-renter. $1,000 from developer Alan Fong, $1,000 from developer Mark Friedman, $250 from Tykert. This was a quick read through I just did today from the most recent filings. These are the people we're up against, and this is what they do. They take their money and then they gum up the works. This is like it's basically a straight line.
Yeah. So, and again, like I like the way the system is set up and the way that it's set up, and like if you remove ethics and morality from the equation, it makes sense that people do this. It makes sense because it's legal to do this, that this is how it goes, which is why it's wild to me that this isn't like this doesn't just an obvious red flag for everybody as far as ethics go. It's bananas. I don't know.
And especially on something that's so like, it just comes off as like the defense of sheer evil. You're just like, oh, I want to make sure that, landlords can't harass their tenants. And they're like, whoa, like we have to think about the potential financial impact of not being able to harass someone.
What
like,
if I want to harass my tenant?
Yeah. Shouldn't that be my right? Like, it's my property.
Well,
Speech.
and also like you're in this room with like, what were there, like 70 people that Ace brought in to tell their stories that are all like that. Everyone has a story where they were harassed by a landlord or like something illegal that they couldn't find any help with, to go through the proper channels. Blah, blah, blah. They had people who were giving testimony who lost their housing because of shitty landlords and are now living outside. And so that I think the thing, Gabe, that you're saying is like really accentuated by the fact that it's like in stark contrast, right? Like, and it was like down the aisle, you have people who are like, whose lives are on the line on one side being like, please, please, please help us with this. And then you have people on the other side being like, if you help them with this, I'll only make $199 million this year. So no.
Just like the worst fucking people on the other side of the aisle too. They are arguing for the ability to harass tenants. Like there's no way around it, and there's no way around who they are and what they're doing. My favorite though, because I wasn't paying close attention. I was like working all afternoon on Tuesday during this. But I checked Teresa Clift at the Bee's Twitter feed, and she posted a picture during like a public comment section, and there was a man behind a commenter with his he had a button-down blue shirt, like guy in his 60s, like white hair slicked back.
Okay, this guy is probably not making $199 million a year. I'm just gonna step out on a limb and maybe roll that comment back for this specific guy.
Now, in this tweet I read, he had written on like I suppose it's like the back of a folder or something, in all caps in black marker, just Acorn no. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. T Cliff didn't know what that was about. If I were to guess, and I hope I'm not giving too much fodder to the right here, but Acorn was a nonprofit that was a great organizer here in California, up until Project Veritas, the far right gotcha group. We all know them. Did a gotcha video. That was the first thing that actually got them off the ground and got all the far right people to start giving them their first millions. They did a gotcha video on them, and Acorn dissolved. Ace is sort of a it's like kind of a grand child nonprofit of a lot of the people and what they were trying to do with Acorn, which was really just organize everyday working folks throughout California. And so I think this guy my guess is he was doing a deep cut, which I'm guessing makes him like a far right fucking nut job, which I'm really glad to see that he was in the background in the city council video. But did you see later on during this meeting what he did?
Well, he crossed the Acorn part off of his sign, right? Or like scribbled it out.
Yeah.
Because I think he was worried that he was being too he was going too deep, and
it's a deep cut. It's a total deep cut. Yeah.
Like yeah. So then instead of Acorns no, it turned, well, I don't even know how to pronounce the word that he wrote on this thing. It looks like it's like clearly what he's trying to write, I feel, is my guess, is communism no. But Dave,
as in he doesn't
up, right?
like it. He doesn't appreciate communism.
I got it pulled up.
This guy's feelings about communism, he made them very clear. There's
if he could sum it up in one word, no.
No. It's not a fan.
On top of it being spelled Comminusian.
I was Comminusian.
Comminusian, there it is. I just also want to point out, and I really recommend that our listeners find this picture online, because he is, without a doubt, and objectively, like, just a sexy man. Like, he has his shirt is halfway buttoned down, like not one, not two, like 4 buttons down. Like, he's just going open chest, right? And it is a shirt that I'm pretty sure he got from my grandfather's closet. And he, you know, just like, you can see in his eyes how visceral his hatred is for Comminusian. And I can't help but be intrigued, and I want to know more about him.
I do too.
Can we get him on the show?
Just as a thought exercise, if you were to ask this guy, what is communism? What do you think the answer would be?
When the government does stuff.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
that's probably about right.
Or he would like claim it's like the Nazis.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
The Comminusiasts.
This communist fusion. I'm getting really into it these days.
Yeah, the communists from Venus.
Damn, you know, if our band didn't already have a name, I would suggest.
Honestly, yes, we could still name an album or a song.
Comminusius, yeah.
No, yeah.
That's a good call and response opportunity for a song.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Next time you're writing lyrics and you're hitting a writer's block.
Yeah.
You just got your next bridge, my man.
Easy.
Yeah, he was doing that while council member Maple is not on this committee, but for some reason they can like set some kind of rules so she can come and present on this Tahoe thing, and so she came and presented on it. And in the background, I saw him holding that sign. But anyway, so she presents this. Again, it seems pretty straightforward, and I guess it got tabled, right? Like they said, well, we need more information.
Yeah, they did the thing.
Okay. And I think Katie Valenzuela up there on the dais was reading the tea leaves and was like, oh, I don't see this moving forward today. And especially without Rick Jennings, not like we should ever hope or expect him to do anything helpful. He was not there on Tuesday either for that vote. I mean, we got 20 minutes. Can we just talk about the last thing that came up on Law and Leg?
Yeah. I mean, I think this has the potential to be a really big deal. We're going to see. How it goes. What
is this? What's it called? Shannon hated that name.
Sacramento Forward. No comment. Sacramento Forward. So, from what I understand from the website, this is like basically just to take a high level kind of view. It's like a pretty comprehensive policy package that includes stronger tenant protections. It includes like affordable housing incentives, like inclusionary housing, blah blah blah. Like it basically is like a really 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 big swing at affordable housing production, while also ensuring that the workers who are building these buildings with using public funding are being paid a prevailing wage, which are two pieces that typically are seen as being sort of at odds with one. And so this package is really oriented around making those two things work together and bringing, kind of a new age of affordable housing development to Sacramento. So it does a whole bunch of stuff. It has like the opportunity to purchase parts, and like it's what it is. I think, I don't know. It seems like a lot. It's a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see how it moves forward.
Yeah, let me line item it a little bit. And you've gone through most of it, but there is a lot of really good and important stuff there. And it seems like, so this was put forward by 3 council members, the 3 progressives. You can probably guess already, folks, who they are. Valenzuela,
Kaplan.
District 4. Bizarro Kaplan. Katie Maple of District 5 and my Vang of District 8. Is she? I don't know why I get her wrong sometimes with 7. And they basically were looking at this notion of homelessness and how it's on the rise here, and how if we're not stanching the flow, then, it doesn't matter, all the work we're doing to get folks off the street, especially within this affordable housing crisis. They know very intimately, as people who work in policy within our city, that for every one person that the city can get off the streets, 3 more go into homelessness because of our housing crisis, because of, well, who knows, maybe landlords who are harassing their tenants. And so they want to do this sort of holistic take that Skylar was saying, that fights against this at every step of the way. So obviously the number one thing we need to do is build more affordable housing. They want to establish what's called an inclusionary housing requirement, so that when somebody's developing something, it's not all market rate expensive housing. A certain percentage would have to be affordable housing, which the city used to have, but the developers succeeded in killing that 8 years ago. And we are in this mess that we're in because of people like the developers and the Josh Woods at Region Business and, the landlords. There is the stop people from losing their housing. So this is the part that's protecting tenants, right? So it's just cause evictions, requiring any eviction notices to be reported to the city so we can actually track that shit. Establish and fund a right to legal counsel for both tenants and landlords. Obviously, we know that benefits tenants more because landlords can already afford attorneys.
Right.
So things like that are really important that will keep folks in housing, keep them protected. Beyond that, there's a prevent corporate purchases of property. So they want to establish a Sacramento Opportunity to Purchase Act, which would require any tenant building listed for sale to be sold to the tenant or eligible community group, which is probably a group of tenants or someone, if they can meet the initial listing price. So this is basically...
Right. They would have to offer it to them first before going elsewhere.
That's fantastic. That's super exciting. And then stop the race to the bottom for wages. I'm glad you brought that one up, Skylar. That's a really tough one. And that's one that's got a lot of fights back and forth in the affordable housing world. They're like, well, how can we make the housing affordable if, we're going to pay them X, Y, and Z? But it's like, you can't... if your morals are in a certain place, you have to provide people a living wage. You have to.
Well, because the other way to say that, right, is the only way we can do this is if we pay people poverty wages to where they can't afford to pay rent in this town. So no, that's an automatic no, right? I mean, making sure that we are paying people a prevailing wage is a huge part of housing security, right? First and foremost. But yeah, you're right, Dave. I mean, the whole thing is really, really, really focused on prevention because, like you said, yeah, for every person. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of wild is that the city does get people. They do help people off of the street and back onto their feet. But like you said, for every person that they're able to help, 3 more people lose their house. And so it's just not it's super unsustainable, and the trajectory that we're on currently, going the way that we're going, it's gonna get worse fast, So I don't know. I mean, interesting to see how this goes. I think this is this is really ambitious in a way that I think is great. I hope I think one of the things that Katie Valenzuela said when they were talking about this is if you're gonna shoot this down, then come to the table with an alternative, because we need to get to a certain amount of affordable units. I don't even really care how. If you don't like this plan, show me your plan. But what we cannot do is just shoot this down and keep going the way that we're going, because we know for a fact there is no question that the track that we're on gets worse and worse and worse in all of the ways that literally everybody in this town is mad about for one reason or another, right? So I don't know.
I think, reading through that article, a lot of the points, were things that I kind of I was aware of, but at the same time, maybe didn't know the depth of specificity of it. But like having lived in San Francisco for a decade and then moving to Sacramento, San Francisco obviously has like really strict rent control measures in place to protect people. And obviously their housing market is incredibly predatory, but seeing that, landlords are able to raise the rent up to 9.2% on certain units and do every single year on their tenants, like tenants complaining that they raise the rent, the maximum that they are legally allowed to raise it is insane. When I lived in North Sac, there was a place I was living in that was like $1,500 at a 3-year lease. They raised it incrementally to the point of about $1,500, and then when the lease ended, they jumped it to $2,000, so a third of the rent. And this was before the current rent cap increase was put into place, but it's. It says in the article, the typical 1-bedroom in the city is $2,300 a month, and 2-bedroom is $3,150. And I just can't comprehend how let's not even focus on the unhoused population. Let's also focus on the fact that renters in general are all on the verge or on the cusp of potentially being homeless with rents that high. It is absolutely unsustainable. And for them to just brush off these, for Guerra and Kaplan to be like, well, we don't want to disincentivize people, wanting to develop in this city. And it's like, well, you're disincentivizing people fucking living in the city. Like,
right.
They're disincentivizing poor people from living.
Right. Yeah.
More to the point.
Well, also not creating jobs that pay anything in this city,
right. Well, also complaining that like, oh, nobody's around downtown at night anymore. It's like, I mean, like, nobody has any money. Like everybody's super broke and has to like live way out in the sticks just to be able to afford their rent, Well,
then we have all these like empty office buildings on K Street. We saw this, and we're not going to get to the Petrovich story today, but that's a doozy. But, in this piece, we saw that all of these office buildings on K Street are like 2/3 empty, almost entirely empty. Like, and I get it. I get that there's a lot you got to do to turn a commercial space into housing. Like the water systems are totally different. I get it, but we're talking about just like all of this empty space that we're not using for anything. And you wonder why downtown's empty. And their solution is, the conservative Dems solution is, well, get people back to work, get them back in the office. Like, fuck you all the way. Like that is not how this is supposed to work. It's 2023.
I don't think that's going to be a successful effort.
No.
I feel like basically all the workers who like have started working from home in the pandemic and like it are just like, nah, I don't know.
That's not going to happen. Sorry, bro.
I'm not willing to even consider that.
Yeah, I know, especially like with Gen Z coming into the age of which they're looking for their career paths, and having completed high school or the early transition of their 20s during the pandemic. Like they're looking for jobs that offer hybrid or work from home exclusively. It's also, like we're not going back.
The other side of the wage thing is like, if you want people to like eat shit for their jobs, you gotta like pay them enough to where they can do things. Like you can't pay somebody like so little that they're spending 2/3 of their check every month on rent, spend the rest of the third on utilities and have $100 left over. Dude, when work is like, hey, we need you to come in and do this thing, you're gonna be like, fuck you. Like, absolutely not. like why would I do that? Like I barely can subsist. Like people just exist. People who are making a low wage in the city are not living, they are existing. They exist indoors until they can't exist indoors, and then they exist outdoors, and then everybody has a fucking problem with it, right? I mean, I don't know, it's very like to what you're saying, Dave. I don't know, like if you zoom out far enough, right? I mean, because the reason, of course, like one of the things that you're talking about where, you know, they have all this empty office space they could turn into affordable housing, they could convert it. And you're right, like they could do that. You're also right that they have to like completely redo all the plumbing and like all the gas lines and everything. It's crazy expensive to do it. And it's not like the developers are not wrong. It is expensive to build this stuff, you know, like the money needs to come from somewhere. And especially the money you need more money if you're going to pay people ethically, which you should be doing. But if there's so much of an issue doing that, and then like the reality of things actually coming to fruition, then like what the fuck kind of system have we built here? Like it doesn't,
right.
I don't understand what the long game is. Like
it's perverse. It's perverse
like
capitalism.
Where's it gonna go? Like where are we? If we keep doing this, then where do we wind up in 100 years? Because I can't look through, like I'm looking into my crystal ball. All of it looks bad, right? I think it has to other people too. So I'm kind of wondering, like, are we just, is the mindset like we'll all be dead before like we get to like World War Z kind of stuff, or like
or
I just don't understand. Like the conversation is, the whole thing is just so it's such a mess. And and hopefully, you know, I mean, I think hopefully. I don't know how this SAC Forward thing is going to go. I don't even know how it would go if everything passed and it was all great. You know, I think it would probably be a tremendous step in the right direction, but who knows, you know, but like something's got to change. And I think that's really to the point of this thing, you know, and that's really what I think needs to be drilled into conservative Dems right now is like, okay, like if y'all don't like this, that's fine, but you got to come up with something that does work, that actually works in a way that like helps society, not just making rich people richer. Like it has to actually work. You have to be ready to come to the table with that. And people just like aren't. And I don't understand why. I don't understand how, I guess.
Here's what they're gonna do though. They're gonna do the YIMBY shit. They're gonna do the neolib capitalist shit.
Right.
Like it's the market, baby. We just need more housing.
We just need to deregulate the market.
Housing.
Developers
it's like, motherfucker, if the market was actually something that worked in a supply and demand like manner that our little textbooks claim it does, then these fucking office buildings on K Street would be paying us to fucking get office space there. But they're not. They're sitting empty and they're overcharging because they're, for some fucking bizarre reason, feel like that's the right perverse thing to do because they don't want the price to go down because there's zero fucking demand. So I got a little spicy there. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I think it's you know, one of capitalism's many pitfalls is it's incredibly short-sighted, but then to its credit, its ability to pivot and our attention away from what the problem was in the first place, and constantly redirect it towards solutions that have already been tried that are not solutions, in a constant effort to just honestly make it another day. Like capitalism does not exist with a plan. Capitalism exists to make it to tomorrow with as much money as it possibly can, and all consequences be damned. You know, it's not, you know, it's not
made to be sustainable. That's not the idea.
Right. Yeah. It is a cancer.
Can I say for folks for this one thing, because I don't know if we buried the lead here, but this idea, you know, Forward Sacramento is going to be, or Sac Forward, correct me if I'm wrong, this will be presented eventually to all of City Council, Skylar?
Well, so they're this staff is going to go through. So one of the things that they added onto it was that it's going to involve this community process, because what they're doing the thing where they're like, well, we need to have this conversation with all the stakeholders. To which, of course, Katie Valenzuela has been like, I've been having those conversations for 9 months. Those conversations have happened. These are the stakeholders
dragging their fucking feet,
you know. But so they're going to go do it. I think it'll come back around in, I don't know. I think hopefully October.
Okay.
But we'll see.
I would encourage the listeners to pay close attention to this one and how it affects your thoughts on people in elections that are coming up in 2024. You know, in particular, I think we should look at how Eric Guerra behaves. And I think folks should really bang the drum on if he continues to try and drag his feet on this, and you know, really, really kind of hold him accountable as he gets closer and closer to the primary. You know, I think obviously we know where Katie is on this, and Katie and Mai is not going to have anyone running against her anyway, so that's fine. Who else we got? District 2. I don't even know if Sean's running again. But and then even the folks that aren't up for re-election, I would recommend you look at who their allies are who are up for election this year, and think twice about supporting them if these are folks who are fighting against this as well.
Yeah, I mean, something has to change, right? Like something has to. It has to. And something like something massive. Like the problems that we are facing, the scale is so massive. You know, this is where, you know I've been getting into it with libs about this since the Paleolithic era, but like this is not like incremental change is not going to work. Like that, we are past the point that the time for incremental change was decades ago. Like we're at the point where like bold, like I guess I'm grasping for a word that I don't have, but like major, not incremental change, major change and fast change is not like something that should happen. It's something that must happen. So
I think the word you were looking for is revolutionary.
Revolutionary
change.
Like
I think that the again, I'm always curious for people who are against this, and it speaks to both your points and to Katie's point of like, well, if you don't like this, then present me something different, right? Like if you understand what the problem is, we might disagree on our solutions, but you can't just not have a solution. Your solution just can't be like, fuck them.
More of the same.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's not a solution. And that's what always like boggles my mind, is that like these people who are elected to make some sort of change, someone put them there because they did not like how things were before, how they're able to get away with just doing more of the same consistently, and then still somehow bank on a reputation that they've done something positive. And it's like, show me the fucking proof. Show me the proof. Like, I want to see, you know, like, I just am left like gasping, just like, how do you have the audacity to like sit there and say that this solution, which I don't think is an incremental change. I do think that it is ambitious, but I also do think that like people could be demanding a whole lot more, right? That's not in this proposal. So how can you think that not coming to the table and engaging in good faith is somehow going to speak well for you in history? Like, you're not on the right side of history on this. And they just aren't.
I mean, on a positive note, Lisa Kaplan did strike a pretty strong blow against sideshows at the same Law and Legislation meeting. So we're cracking down on those. I'm proud and happy to report that that's well in hand. That problem is well in hand now.
Yeah, Sideshow Lisa of Sacramento City Council fame. Really impressed by the work that she's doing.
Yeah, that was a really strong blow for public safety, I think. Or, I mean, in favor, of course.
In favor of it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
You know, she comes from a family of racing. Did you hear that? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about?
I understand that she also used to be a lawyer. Is she a mom?
Wow. Fucking Ricky Bobby Esquire over here. The fuck?
I mean, also on a positive note, Ryan Masano got shut down at council, so that was pretty.
Credit where it's due. Kudos to the mayor on that.
Yep.
Shut him the fuck up. Cut him off.
It's not the first time the mayor's done it. Honestly, like I don't know.
I mean, like getting better and better at it.
The mayor shutting him down is rad.
He's getting better and better at it. I'm loving it. Keep doing it, please.
Hell yeah.
Ryan, if you feel like coming on down to town, like just let us know. And why don't we wrap it up with hey, you guys hear of any shows coming up?
Oh, you mean like not podcast style shows?
No, maybe something at like,
something a little louder, maybe.
Cool bar that's kind of loud and good music.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we should just do plugs, right?
Oh, you guys can plug this.
Do it.
Yeah.
So Gabe and I both play in a band called Get the Wall. We have a show on August 26th at Streets. It's free. There's a couple of other really cool bands in there with us. So yeah, come out, have some drinks with us and listen to our music. We'll be debuting Comminusian Yes.
Comminusian Yes. Yeah, that's being put on by some friends of mine, I think. Lazy Rush Records.
You know them.
Steven and Len, I know.
Sweet.
Very good people. And they're really excited about the show. So I can't fucking wait. So I'll see.
I'm a little concerned that the amount of ampage that we use is going to be a lot at Streets. So it'll be worth coming out just to see how that goes.
Gonna blow some kids off.
Yeah, no, the bar might not actually be left standing afterwards. So it might be the last show at
guys, that's
Street.
My spot. I don't know.
Have you seen that? Do you remember the video for was it Black or White by Michael Jackson that had the little intro part where the kid like has that big speaker and he plays one note on his guitar and it like blows his dad out the wall and like to the moon or something?
Blows his dad, yeah.
Blows his dad. Dude, it was weird video. Weird the MTV aired it.
Very in line for the era though, just like the
of its time,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. All right. Dave, do you have anything to plug?
I've got nothing to plug that I know of.
Well, then let's plug the show. Obviously, if you made it this far into the show, you love us. You can't get enough of listening to these fantastic conversations. We also love that you listen to them. We would love to have your support if you are in a financial position to be able to afford it for as little as $5 a month. It really helps us out. So you can do that at patreon.com/voicesrivercity. Maybe, you know what we should do? We should set a goal to where if we get to a certain amount, then I will stop tagging that on every post that Voices River City does on Twitter or whatever. Like maybe we'll set a threshold. Be like, I'll stop bothering you about it.
Once we, get above 1,000 again or something. Or
well, maybe I want to aim more for 200 million.
Okay, 200 mil. Good. But I really want to, and I'll talk with the co-host offline. I want to start doing. I want a patron only event sometime soon. So I don't know. We'll see.
Right.
See if you guys are.
I like that. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, y'all.
Maybe,
well, thank you.
Maybe
for
something
listening.
that blows dads.
Yeah. We're gonna blow some dads.
This is a patron only dad blow.
Hashtag patron only dad blow.
Blow them if you got them.
Put some good thoughts into the universe for Shannon. Shannon, we love you. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fucking done.
All right. Well, let's call it.